Welcome to Concrete Block, the podcast where we break down the latest news and current events into manageable pieces, giving you a clear understanding of what's happening in our world. I'm your host, Walter. Today, we're going to dive into the highly anticipated meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin, set to take place in Alaska. This summit has been making headlines for weeks, with many wondering what will come out of it, especially regarding the ongoing conflict in Ukraine. To set the stage, let's consider the context of this meeting. President Trump has expressed frustration over the lack of progress in resolving the Ukrainian conflict and had previously threatened to impose further sanctions on Russia if the fighting continued. However, instead of following through on these threats, he agreed to meet with Putin, sparking both interest and skepticism about the potential outcomes. It's also important to note that both leaders have a reputation for being strong-willed and determined. President Putin has shown resolve in maintaining the status quo in Ukraine, which he believes is crucial to his political survival. Despite Russia suffering significant casualties, Putin's approval rating within Russia remains high, indicating strong domestic support for his actions. On the other hand, President Trump is known for his negotiation style, often described as bold and unconventional. He has stated that Putin won't mess with him, suggesting confidence in his ability to navigate this meeting effectively. However, a closer look at both leaders' past behaviors reveals a pattern of backing down from threats when faced with strong opposition. Putin, despite his tough rhetoric, has not always followed through on his warnings, particularly regarding the use of nuclear weapons or targeting Western countries for supplying Ukraine with military aid. Similarly, President Trump has also been known to set deadlines and make threats that ultimately do not materialize into action. The question on everyone's mind is, what can be achieved from this meeting, especially considering Ukraine's absence? Putin's goals are clear. He seeks significant control over Ukraine or substantial territorial concessions, both of which are non-starters for the Ukrainian government. Additionally, Putin aims to undermine democracy in Ukraine, viewing it as a threat to his own power. Given these dynamics, the Alaska summit may yield more symbolic gestures than concrete agreements. Without Ukraine's presence to defend its interests, the meeting's effectiveness in addressing the core issues of the conflict is questionable. As we continue to follow this developing story, it will be crucial to analyze the statements and actions of both leaders closely, looking for any signs of compromise or escalation. The implications of this meeting are far-reaching, not just for Ukraine and Russia, but for global politics and security. We'll be right back with more of today's top news on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're taking a closer look at the complex and sensitive issue of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and how it's being addressed by world leaders. Recently, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese announced that his country will recognize Palestine as a sovereign state at the United Nations General Assembly meeting next month. This move has sparked reactions from various quarters, with some hailing it as a step towards peace, and others criticizing it as premature or misguided. The Israeli government has strongly opposed the decision, saying it rewards terrorism and undermines efforts to achieve a lasting peace through negotiations. On the other hand, Palestinian leaders have welcomed the announcement, seeing it as a significant diplomatic victory and a recognition of their people's right to self-determination. The United States, under President Donald Trump, has taken a more nuanced stance, with the White House stating that while the president is not married to any one solution, he believes that recognizing Palestine at this time would be rewarding Hamas. It's essential to acknowledge the deep-seated emotions and competing interests involved in this conflict. As we navigate this complex issue, it's crucial to prioritize a fair and balanced approach, considering the perspectives of all parties involved. The international community must work towards creating an environment conducive to meaningful dialogue and negotiation, rather than taking actions that might be perceived as provocative or divisive. As the situation continues to unfold, we'll be keeping a close eye on developments and bringing you updates and analysis. For now, it's clear that the path forward will require careful diplomacy, empathy, and a commitment to finding a peaceful resolution that respects the rights and dignity of all individuals involved. Stay tuned for our final story of the day, right here on Concrete Block. Welcome back to Concrete Block. We're coming down to the final stretch of today's show, and we've got some important updates to discuss. As you may have heard, the situation between Russia and Ukraine has been ongoing for quite some time now, with both sides experiencing significant losses. Recently, there have been talks of a potential peace deal, with some notable figures weighing in on the matter. Former U.S. President Donald Trump has suggested that a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine would require land swapping. This proposal has sparked intense debate, with some arguing that it could be a viable solution to the conflict, while others believe it's not a feasible or fair approach. It's essential to consider the complexities of this issue and the potential implications of such a deal. Meanwhile, Russia and Belarus have announced plans to hold joint military drills, known as Zapad 2025, from September 12th to 16th. These exercises will feature air defense training, defensive combat scenarios, and tactical aviation support, with around 13,000 personnel participating. While some view this as a routine military exercise, others are concerned that it could be a precursor to further aggression. It's also worth noting that there have been reports of Russian forces breaching Ukrainian defenses in certain areas, which has raised concerns about the escalating violence. The international community is closely watching these developments, and diplomatic efforts are underway to try to find a peaceful resolution. As we wrap up today's show, it's clear that the situation between Russia and Ukraine remains volatile and complex. It's crucial for all parties involved to prioritize diplomacy and work towards finding a peaceful solution that respects the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine. That's all for today's Concrete Block. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, stay informed.